I noticed she never answered a direct question. That sounds like a weird thing to focus on, but after everything that happened, it's the first red flag I think about. Not that she ignored me. She always replied. Fast, actually. Sometimes within seconds. She just never really answered what I asked. If I asked where she worked, she'd say something like, "It's boring. You'll make fun of me." If I asked where she grew up, she'd say, "Not somewhere exciting." If I asked what she was looking for on Tinder, she'd reply with something like, "Depends who's asking." At the time, I thought she was just being playful. Her name was Ava. Or at least, that's what her profile said. I was 26 and had been using Tinder off and on for about a year. I wasn't some guy going on dates every weekend. Most matches went nowhere. A few messages, maybe a conversation. Then one of us stopped responding. Pretty normal. Ava was different because she actually seemed interested. We matched on a Tuesday night. By Wednesday, we'd been talking almost non-stop. Her pictures looked normal. Just a pretty brunette with kind of a serious expression in every photo. One picture at a coffee shop, one with a dog, a couple selfies. Nothing weird. She seemed funny too. Dry sense of humor, a little sarcastic. The kind of person who made fun of everything, including me, especially me, which honestly worked. By Friday, she suggested meeting up. That caught me off guard because usually I was the one asking. "There's a bar downtown I like," she wrote. "Want to meet tomorrow?" Simple. Normal. I said yes. The date itself was actually great. That's part of what makes this story so weird. If she'd been creepy from the start, none of this would have happened. She was charming, funny, smart, maybe a little intense, but in a way that felt exciting. We talked for almost 4 hours. The bar got quieter as the night went on. People left. Chairs got stacked. The bartender kept glancing at us. Neither of us wanted to end the conversation. At one point, she asked if I believed people could know things about someone immediately. Like what? "I don't know. Whether they're safe." I laughed. "Safe? Yeah. That's a strange question." She shrugged. "I think most people are bad judges of character." "Probably." She stared at me for a second, longer than normal, then smiled. "I think you're safe." It felt like flirting. At the time. Looking back, it feels different. We ended up walking around downtown afterward. The streets were mostly empty. Just occasional traffic. A couple drunk people. Nothing unusual. When we finally said goodbye, she hugged me. Normal hug. Nothing weird. But right before she got into her rideshare, she said, "I had fun." "Me too. I'm glad you're real." I laughed. "What does that mean?" She smiled. "You'd be surprised." Then she left. The next couple weeks moved fast. Really fast. We texted constantly. Morning. Night. During work. She always seemed available. Always. And that's when little things started standing out. Not enough to scare me. Just enough to notice. For example, she never seemed to have plans. Ever. No friends. No family events. No co-workers she talked about. Nothing. Whenever I mentioned it, she'd redirect. I remember one conversation specifically. I asked what she was doing Saturday. She replied, "Probably nothing." "Nobody stealing your weekend?" "Nope." "What about friends?" A few minutes passed. Then, "I'd rather spend time with you." It sounds flattering. At the time, it felt flattering. Now it doesn't. About 3 weeks after we met, she started bringing up exclusivity. A lot. Not aggressively. Just constantly. Little comments. Questions. Hints. "Are you still talking to people on Tinder? Have you gone on any other dates? What would you do if you met someone better?" Stuff like that. I told her I wasn't seeing anyone else, which was true. but she seemed strangely focused on the topic, like she needed reassurance every day. One night we were having dinner and she asked, "How many women have you matched with since we met?" I laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. "I don't know. Like 10, maybe." "Did you talk to them?" "A couple." She got quiet. Not angry, just quiet. The mood changed immediately. The restaurant noise suddenly felt louder. Forks scraping plates. People talking. Music overhead. She stared at her drink, then smiled. A fake smile. "Oh. What's wrong?" "Nothing." "No, seriously." She shook her head. "It's fine." But it obviously wasn't. The rest of the night felt off. Not bad. Just tense. Like I had accidentally stepped into something. A week later, I got my first really uncomfortable feeling. I was leaving work around 6, walking toward my car. My phone buzzed. Message from Ava. "Busy?" I replied. "Just got off work." 3 dots appeared instantly. "How was your day?" I answered, then froze because another message appeared. "Blue shirt looks better than the gray one." I stared at the screen. I looked around the parking lot. Cars, people leaving. Nothing unusual. I typed, "What?" She replied, "Saw your picture from this morning." I actually laughed out loud. I thought she meant Instagram, but I hadn't posted anything. "Which picture?" No answer. Then, "Never mind." I asked again. Nothing. For the rest of the night, she acted completely normal. Eventually, I convinced myself I'd misunderstood. Maybe she saw an old photo. Maybe she'd worded it weird. Whatever. Still, that message stuck with me. Then another thing happened. A friend of mine named Jordan called me one evening. We'd known each other since college. He sounded confused. "Dude, but what?" "Who's Ava?" I paused. "Girl I'm seeing." "Why is she messaging me?" "What?" "She DM'd me on Instagram." That got my attention. "How'd she find you?" "No clue." Jordan wasn't tagged in anything recent. There was no obvious connection, at least none I could think of. "What'd she say?" "Nothing crazy. Just asked how we knew each other." I felt uncomfortable immediately. "That's weird." "Yeah." "What'd you tell her?" "That we've been friends for years." There was a pause. Then he added, "She asked if you ever talk about her." That bothered me. A lot. I confronted her later. She laughed. Actually laughed. I was curious. "Why?" "I wanted to know your friends." "Without telling me?" It wasn't a big deal. Maybe it wasn't. But something about it felt wrong. The conversation turned into an argument. Our first real one. And that's when I saw a side of her I'd never seen before. She didn't yell. Didn't insult me. Didn't get emotional. She got cold. Completely cold. Like a switch flipped. Her messages became short. Formal. Detached. Hours passed between replies. Then days. Part of me was relieved. I thought maybe things were ending naturally. Then she showed up at my apartment, unannounced, at almost 11 at night. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I looked through the peephole and saw her standing there, I felt genuine surprise. I opened the door. "Ava?" She smiled. "Hey! What are you doing here?" I was nearby. It was a lie, I knew it immediately. She lived almost 40 minutes away. "At 11? She shrugged. "Can I come in?" I hesitated, just for a second, but she noticed. I could tell. Something changed in her expression. A tiny shift, almost invisible. Then she smiled, a different smile, like she'd made a note of it. I let her in. We talked. The tension disappeared. Or seemed to. Eventually, she apologized. Said she'd been acting weird. Said she got attached too quickly. Said she'd work on it. I believed her. That's the embarrassing part. I really believed her. Things were normal again for about 2 weeks. Then I started noticing the car. At first, I wasn't even sure it was the same one. Nothing distinctive, just average. I'd see it parked near my apartment sometimes, then near my gym, then outside a grocery store, always far enough away that I couldn't be certain, always gone when I looked again. I told myself I was imagining things. I wanted to be imagining things. One Friday night, Jordan came over. We ordered food, watched a game. Normal evening. Around midnight, he looked out my living room window, then turned toward me. "Isn't that her car?" I felt my stomach drop because I'd noticed it too. Parked across the street. Dark. Engine off. No lights. Just sitting there. Jordan looked at me. I looked at him. Neither of us spoke for a second. Finally, I said, "Maybe?" He kept staring. "Dude." "Yeah." "That's weird." I didn't sleep much that night. The car was gone by morning. When I asked Ava about it, she sounded genuinely confused. Maybe too genuinely confused. I wasn't there. Okay? I wasn't. All right. "Do you think I'm following you?" The way she asked it bothered me, because I hadn't actually used that word, following. I never said it. She did. And for some reason, that made my skin crawl. A few days later, everything escalated. Not dramatically, not violently, just enough to make me realize something was seriously wrong. I got home from work around 6, opened my apartment door, and immediately noticed something on the kitchen counter. A coffee cup from a local cafe. Fresh. There was still condensation on the side. I froze, just stood there staring, because I'd lived alone. And I definitely locked my apartment when I left. At first, I thought maintenance had entered, maybe for an inspection, but there was no notice, no paperwork, nothing. Then I saw the sticky note attached to the cup. 3 words. "Thought you'd like." No name, no explanation, nothing. Just those words. I remember standing there, holding that note while my heart absolutely hammered, because deep down, I already knew. I knew exactly who had left it, and I knew she shouldn't have been able to. The question that kept running through my head wasn't who, it was how. And that question got a lot worse when I checked my spare key. The spare key I kept hidden outside. The spare key that was gone. I stood there staring at the empty hiding spot for a solid minute, trying to convince myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe I forgot where I put it. Maybe maintenance moved it. Maybe somebody random found it. But I knew that wasn't true. I texted Ava. "Did you take my spare key?" She didn't respond for a while. And then finally, "What kind of question is that?" I called her. She declined it immediately. That was enough for me. The next morning I changed my locks. I didn't tell her. I didn't tell anyone except Jordan. His reaction was basically, "Dude, end this. Now." The problem was I didn't know how. Nothing she'd done was outright criminal. Creepy? Absolutely. But every time I confronted her, she'd somehow make me sound unreasonable. A few days later, I ended things. I kept it simple. I told her I wasn't comfortable anymore and didn't think we should keep seeing each other. She replied almost instantly, "Okay." That was it. One fucking word. Honestly, it relieved me. For about 48 hours. Then weird things started happening. Not enough to call the police. Just enough to make me constantly uncomfortable. I'd get notifications that someone viewed my LinkedIn profile. A new account would follow my Instagram, then disappear. Always little things. Always things I couldn't prove. Jordan thought I was being watched. I thought he was probably right. Then came the night that finally convinced me. It was around 1 a.m. I was asleep on the couch with the TV still on. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. Normally I would have ignored it, For some reason, I answered. I said, "Hello?" Nothing. Just faint background noise. Then I heard breathing. Very quiet. Someone was there. I hung up. A second later, a text arrived from the same number. Are you alone?" I stared at the screen. Another message. "I saw your friend's car leave." My entire body went cold. Jordan had left maybe 20 minutes earlier. That meant whoever sent the text had been outside. I locked every door in the apartment, checked every window, called Jordan, then called the police non-emergency line. By the time officers arrived, there was nobody outside. The number was disconnected by morning. I never heard from Ava again. A month later, Jordan sent me a screenshot. Ava had created a new social media account. Different username, photos, bio. But it was definitely her. The disturbing part wasn't the account. It was her relationship status. She was posting pictures with another guy, a guy she'd apparently met on Tinder. The captions were almost identical to things she'd posted about me. Looking at those posts made me realize something. I don't think I was special. I don't think I was even the first. I think I was just the current target of someone's obsession. And when she realized she couldn't control access to my life anymore, she simply moved on to somebody else. That was almost 2 years ago. The reason it still bothers me isn't because anything terrible happened. It's because I never learned how much she actually knew, how often she was watching, how long she'd had that spare key, or how many times she was outside my apartment when I had no idea she was there. And honestly, that's the part that still feels wrong. Not what I know, what I don't.